Today, I'm going to talk about how to glue back together again a piece of ceramic. So, as sometimes happens, things break, and you do always have the option of throwing them away. However, sometimes it's something that is precious or one of a kind, or something that has a lot of personal meaning that you just don't want to throw away. So, what do you do with it? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to get something that is for china, ceramics, glass, because if you just use regular glue, it actually won't work. In order to bond the ceramics pieces together again, you do need glue that is meant to do that. Again, if you don't get the right kind of glue, you're going to be very frustrated and it's simply not going to work. So this bowl was something that came in the mail the other day, and unfortunately, when it arrived, it showed up in pieces. Now, it is a very lovely bowl, and it is in fairly significantly sized pieces, and since it broke inside the box, I have all of the pieces, including all the little bits of flecks of glaze and all the things that I need. So even down to the tiny dusty bits, they are all present right here. Now, if this were something that had maybe fallen on the floor and broken and shattered all over, I might not have been able to find all of these pieces, but in this case, I am quite lucky to have every single thing I need. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing today is just simply going through and starting by making sure that I know where all of these tiny, tiny pieces go. So this is a bit like a puzzle. Now, this one here is the largest and the most obvious. Part of the reason I think that this bowl broke was that it's an adorable little ramen bowl that has a hole already made into it. And while very cool and adorable and all, it also means that it has created a weak spot in the ceramic itself. And if I look in some of the areas that are broken, I can actually see into the structure of the bowl itself. And there are a couple places where I can see tiny, tiny air pockets, which can also create areas of weakness. Now, for normal everyday use, that's not going to be a problem. And that is something that is a very common part of homemade ceramics. However, it does make them a little bit more likely to break, especially if they are in transit and you are moving things from one place to another. However, that porousness also means that I have something that I can use to glue the pieces together. So there are lots of little tiny, tiny, tiny holes in the ceramic, and when I fill them with glue and I put those together, they should be able to interlock again. Now, this bowl will always be a little bit weak, so I'm not going to be using it for any kind of heavy duty work. However, I can still use it, and this way I don't have to throw the whole thing away. How very sad for this lovely bowl if I were just to throw it away and it spends the rest of eternity in a landfill somewhere. Instead, I'm going to mend it, and then the cracks actually become part of the story. And sometimes that happens to things and people as well, where we might get a little bit damaged, but it doesn't mean that we have to be thrown away. It just means that we're going to have some interesting scars and some stories to tell. So, as I am getting started, I'm just going to make sure that I have all my materials ready. And one of the things I also have is a very soft bristle brush. This is my little hake brush that is actually used for glazing. And in this case, I'm going to use it because it's very, very, very soft. And that way, if I get any little bits of glue, I can use this to kind of clean and tidy. I'm also going to be needing to put this together to make sure that I'm not missing any pieces, or at least that I know where those pieces go. because sometimes you might find out as you're putting things together that, oh no, I really should have put that piece in first because now I can't quite get to it. So that is my first task, is simply to locate where things came from, and then I can make sure that I have everything I need. Now, these big pieces are going to be pretty quick and easy. I'm going to be able to find their homes fairly quickly. The little tiny pieces, on the other hand, these are going to be a bit more of a detective work task there. So one of the things that I'll do is, once I make sure I know where all the pieces go, then when I start to use the glue, I'm going to support it with a bit of tape. Now the tape that I'll put on here is really just meant to keep it there while the glue is still drying, because I don't want to accidentally bump it before everything has had a chance to finish curing, and then it will simply break apart. Or it might shift, and then instead of gluing together where I want it, it's going to be out of place and it won't be as smooth as it can be. So those are the things that I am going to get started on. And of course, with any project that takes a little bit of time, I enjoy listening to stories while going through projects with my hands so that my brain is busy as my hands are busy. So I'm going to go ahead and listen to an audiobook while I get working on this. So now I have at least the main pieces roughed in, and it's too delicate for me to do much of anything else right now. I do have quite a few other small pieces here. However, until I'm able to take all the tape and everything off, I can't really access where some of them go. So I'm going to give it a little bit of time to set up. And all I'm going to do on the inside here, I ended up with a bit bigger gap than I wanted. So I'm just going to use my paintbrush to sort of paint in some adhesive there in the hopes that that will help strengthen this crack. So wherever I have areas that are a little too powdered to fix with larger pieces, we are going to attempt to at least secure them so that the whole bowl won't fall apart as soon as we try to use it. Now, again, because this is being pieced back together again like this, I won't be able to use this as I would have for a regular ceramic bowl. This is more going to be used just to simply hold things, more as a decorative piece. I certainly won't be using it as a cooking area or anything like that where I would be having foods at high temperatures. This is definitely hand wash only, although we don't own a dishwasher, so I guess that's not a big deal at our house anyway. So I will have to be gentle with it. It is definitely always going to be a little bit fragile, but it still can be a lovely thing to sit upon a shelf and hold items for us. And really, that is kind of the purpose of a bowl anyway. So at least in this way, especially on this side where you can't see any damage at all, I'll be able to still enjoy the bowl. All right, here my bowl's been setting up for a little while, and I just did a quick rinse as a way of checking where my cracks are. So the parts that show up a little bit darker are where the water was able to get in. So that tells me what I need to go through and do a little extra coating with my glue. Now, this is definitely one of those kinds of projects where you get what you pay for. So if this were a very valuable piece or something really personally important, I probably would have bought better glue and spent a little more time on it. But for my purposes here, it actually worked pretty well. Now, I did have one piece that just did not want to sit exactly where I wanted it to be. And part of that is when you use a glue that's a bit gooier like this, it ends up kind of filling in the spaces and then it can't quite get in perfectly. So I think this is fine enough for what I was hoping for it. But what I will do along the top, just to make this edge a little bit smoother, because you can feel it when you rub your finger across it, I'm actually just going to use a little bit of candle wax. And with my candle wax, I'll just rub the candle over it, smooth it out, and actually you can't hardly feel it, at least when you're using it. So if you've never heard the phrase, you can't hold a candle to it, it was a way that people would fix statuary and ceramics and things like that using wax, which looks great right up until you get it warm and then it's going to fall apart again. So if you held a candle to it, you could see if there was wax melted into the problem areas. This, on the other hand, I'm just going to put a little bit on the top right there because I don't want it to be rough. According to the glue, in 2 to 3 days, I could use this in the dishwasher. I'm not going to. I don't have a dishwasher anyway. And it should reach its full strength level in about a week. So it will take some time for this to cure. I could use this for most applications that I normally would with a bowl, but I won't be baking in it. High heat is really the one thing that this guy is just never going to be able to do. But I wasn't really planning on using this as a baking dish anyway, so I'm probably pretty okay. However, going from a pile of pieces to a functional bowl, we will definitely be able to serve and eat some lovely ramen noodles out of this bowl, and that really was the intention all along. So as soon as the little bit of water that I used to find the interior cracks has a moment to evaporate, that's the last test that I have left, is just to be able to go ahead and seal that in, just to make sure for food safety and everything that I don't have ways of food getting into the interior. I want to seal off so that it's only glazed. So there you have it, taking a broken ceramic bowl and mending it so that now something that was completely unsafe and unusable is back to being a usable piece of pottery again. So there you have it.